Ba 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 ba. Ha. Hey everybody! A little bit of Go for Mumbo to get you in the mood. Welcome to the Pretty Sketchy podcast number 9. With me, as always, is acclaimed author and avid purveyor of inanimate carbon rods, Michael Marshman. And yet again, I forgot to switch to the cameras because I just have that inability to do two things at once. How you doing, man?
I'm good. Nice little Simpsons reference you got there.
Inanimate carbon rods. Yeah, you gotta keep what do they call it? Callbacks. That's what they call it in the comic book game. Anyway, welcome to another podcast. As always, I'll just explain what we're doing here. Me and Michael are working on a comic book together called Homoko King. He wrote it and I'm drawing it, and we figured, I could do this locked away in a cabinet somewhere where no one can see, or I could do it on the World Wide Web for everyone to see and see how a comic book is made, or rather, how a comic book probably shouldn't be made.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
So welcome to the show. How you doing, Michael? How's things? We haven't done this for a while.
Yeah, it's been a while. Like 3 weeks.
It's been a while. Sorry, everyone does that. It's really...
So,
3 weeks.
It's actually felt like a fucking eternity. Like
it has, yeah. A lot has transpired since we were last on air together.
Yeah.
Those of you who don't know, Michael and I work in retail. And since then, what have we had? Christmas, Boxing Day,
New Year's.
Oh my God, New Year's, everything. It's all been ugly. So, so we're just happy to be kicking back and doing a little bit of art and having a bit of a chat. So
yeah. Things are finally quieting down.
Yeah. Oh my God.
We can get back to what remains of our lives.
The shallow, dried out husks of our existences. Yeah. Cool. So what we're getting at here is you know what? Used to be able to talk. That's why I do this. I thought I'd just talk about what's going on here on the page. I'm going to be working on page 1 again. I went back. I was explaining to Michael today. I've never been happy with the first page. I've really struggled with it. And I feel like if I don't get that right, every page after that is based on what's on page 1, and if I don't sort of lock this in solidly, I won't be able to move forward, and I'm just like, I went back, spent some time on this yesterday, and I got it up to a level where I'm actually pretty happy with the pencils so far, like on the page. And it's moving in the right direction. And it just shows, like, if I look at this and then I look at where I got up to in page 3 and things like that, there's been a big change in how I work and the way that I, particularly work with backgrounds and stuff. As I've spoken about before, it's kind of a weak point for me. Again, for new listeners, this is my first comic book, and so we're sort of going on this adventure together. And I'm learning a lot of stuff as I go along. I'm reading a lot of reference, like my favorite comic artists and things like that, and making sure I'm sort of learning as much as I can. And I'm implementing that wherever I can as well. So, but what it's meant is there has been a lot of setbacks. I wouldn't say setbacks. A lot of learning experiences that have sort of taken me back to, do a few do-overs here and there, which is obviously increasingly frustrating for Michael, but we'll get there. I think that I just got to hit that role where I'm happy with the work I'm putting out consistently on every page. And this has always been a bone of contention for me. I was never happy with even just the first panel of the book, which to me is the most important. So when people flip it open, that's what they see. So, I'm still working on that. But yeah, that'll, hopefully I'll get through the pencils today. And might talk about some stuff as we go along.
To be fair, like a fair bit of that frustration that I have is coming from me as well, because when I finished writing the first issue, I was like, I'm not going to write issue 2 until we've both finished issue 1.
Yeah. And
and I'm being stubborn because I could easily write issue 2 right now.
Yeah.
But I'm just like, I made a promise to myself, and like I really don't want to get too ahead of myself either. Like, I don't want to write all this stuff and then sort of be like, hey, Corey, look at all this shit you got to draw.
Yeah, I mean, I don't care. Like, that might actually motivate me to actually finish something and get it out there in the world. So don't be too worried about that. But I mean, write it when you're ready to write it, not when you feel you have to, I think is the answer. Because you'll end up with something you're probably a little bit happier with.
Well, the writing bug is biting.
Yeah.
it's because I haven't written anything since I wrote issue 1. I haven't written anything at all.
Which was a while ago now.
Yeah, a little while ago. So yeah, it's getting back in there, getting into my head, saying write something. So I might have to. I've been thinking about going back to a story I came up with a while ago. It's such a massive story though. Like it's gone through. Like I originally started writing it as a novel, and then I was like, oh, it could probably be a movie. Then I was like, it could be a comic, but I think I might just take it back to being a novel again.
Yeah.
Seeing how I feel, I guess. But yeah, I don't even know if I've talked to you about it. It's called The Dreamscape.
Oh, I think you've mentioned it. I don't know too much about it.
Okay, fair enough. Well, it's about this guy. He has very vivid dreams, scary dreams, and some scary, some not so scary. Anyway, he finds out that when you dream, you actually go into another world that actually exists.
Okay, yep.
Some people can, because like you know how there's lucid dreaming and non-lucid dreaming.
Yeah.
For those of you that don't know, lucid dreaming is when you can actually control what happens in your dream, where you're aware that it's a dream and you can manipulate things and experience some pretty cool shit. And non-lucid dreaming is when you're just at the mercy of your subconscious. There are some people that, in my story, the lucid dreamers can actually mold and shape this world to how they see fit.
Okay.
While the non-lucid dreamers are just sort of observers and...
Okay, so everybody goes there, but only some people are actually lucid.
Yeah.
Everyone else just sort of experiences their world.
Yeah, pretty much.
Cool.
Like, it is one big world, but, like, everyone sort of has their own little territory, I guess.
Yeah.
Anyway, and there's, like, some bad people as well, like bad lucid dreamers who morph the world into what they want, and they can actually invade other people's dreams, which can cause mental issues with other people.
Right on.
Like the people they're essentially attacking. And there's one person that's attacking a lot of people, causing severe psychological damage and like causing people to go into comas and just fucked up shit.
Oh, okay. Like, so it's affecting them in the real world?
Yeah, it's affecting them in the real world. And our main character learns that there's like another group of people that sort of protect people from that. And I haven't given them a name yet. We'll just call them Dream Warriors for Elm Street's sake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dream Warriors. Yeah.
He learns how to lucid dream and how to become a dream warrior, and ends up facing this evil that's sort of attacking people and fucking people up. It's a lot bigger than what I'm making it out to be, but that's essentially the gist of it. Yeah. In the end, it's a story about him overcoming his own issues, his own personal psychological issues, which aren't as damaging as what's happening to other people, but you know, our world is our biggest, you know, our own problems are the biggest in the world. So
yeah, that's right. Yeah. It's always perspective, you know.
Yeah. I was thinking of going back to that. If not, I'll probably start on King Nothing, which is something we've discussed.
Yeah, King Nothing. Man, that was an interesting day after work. Yeah, we were hanging back at work, setting up some sort of a sale or something like that, and just this idea floating around for. Well, do you want to explain it? You probably can explain it better than I can.
It came from the Metallica song, right? Like,
I don't think so. I don't know what happened. The core concept just appeared in my head, you know, and then we discussed it and fleshed it out a lot more. From memory, but there wasn't. I don't think. I mean, unless you can remember it differently to me, it was a long time ago now.
Yeah, I don't know, because like I always just associate King Nothing with Metallica.
Oh, see, because I didn't know that there was a Metallica song called King Nothing.
Really?
Yeah. So maybe.
Oh, wow.
I mean, now that you mention it, I'm kind of having flashes. I'm like, oh, maybe. Yeah. Oh, cause that could be a problem for marketing.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll let you explain it.
Okay, so the concept that I came up with, which was the problem with it is it's a little bit too broad to just be able to write a story around. The concept's really, really big. And so it needs to be really... Man, I am struggling with this chick's arm. I've been drawing this chick's arm now for like the whole podcast so far. Okay, so the concept of King Nothing is it's a character who is the king of nothing. And at first that seems like it doesn't sound that impressive. But when you consider that most of the universe is made up of nothing, with things in it, it's basically being in charge of everything that isn't something. You know what I mean? Which is most things. And when I mean,
Anyone listening, their brain just went.
yeah, like okay, so you know, as far as man, I'm getting into science talk here, which is just a bad move. But you know, like particles that make up all of the matter in the universe exist, I guess they're suspended in basically nothing, right? They're just brought together. Like you got matter, you got antimatter. I guess what little I know about that is going to come to the fore really rapidly here. But you know, like it's just where there is nothing existing. Essentially, the fabric of space-time is what his power is. It's what he is what he controls. Yeah. But to make it more interesting, the character that we came up with was essentially a guy who has all of this power imbued upon him, but he doesn't use it. In fact, he's basically reclusive. He just he exists in the world on Earth here, but doesn't have like he's invisible. He's essentially like a homeless guy. He just wanders around and he just fades into the background and no one sees him. So it's kind of like an allegory for his name. You know, he's King Nothing. He's basically to the people around him, he is nothing. He exists, but no one. He's just easily forgotten. He's easily ignored. He's easily dismissed. And he likes it that way. Like he likes to fade into the background and just exist. And he's the basic idea for the story was that he has essentially control over everything. Like the power of a god essentially. But he just has he gives no fucks, and so the story would be that something pushes him to the brink of exploding, and being at risk of taking everything down with him, or something similar. We didn't flesh out the story yet. That's the whole point. But I guess what we're talking about today, the protagonist role would be something akin to somebody who brings him back down, gives him a moral compass, something that essentially, he has this choice that he can just remove everything from existence, or not. And to him, it doesn't matter because, this was the cool concept that actually I was bouncing around my head today. I was going to come and find you. To him, matter existing in the nothing is an irritation because he's the king of nothing. So you put something in there, whether it be, like electrons, protons, particles, whatever, matter in general, you put it into his domain, it's an irritation. It shouldn't be there. And I guess you could look at it like this. Imagine there's two characters. There's him and there's, I guess, quote unquote, King something, who's in charge of everything else. And they balance each other out. And so for the most part, it pretty much balances itself. So he doesn't have much to do. He's just the guardian of nothing,
Yeah.
And I forgot where I was going. We got a little bit too existential. No, but he's become to rely on this irritation. Sort of, I guess for one of like a more poetic way to describe it, the irritation, it makes him feel something. So he's like, it's a little bit like, in Dogma, God occasionally just likes to come down to earth and play some skee ball, because she loves the simplicity of it. She loves humans because they're just goofy and stupid, and she loves being around them. And it's the same sort of thing. He has a love-hate relationship with Earth, for example, because it's an irritation. It's there. But he's become dependent on feeling that irritation to the point where it becomes part of who he is, But then somehow you got to weave in a narrative to that sort of universe that's something that's tangible, that makes sense on some sort of level, and that's where it becomes complicated. When you're talking about people who have the power of, like God, and I don't mean the power of gods like Thor and stuff, who's just essentially a human who's a little bit stronger and can throw a hammer. We're talking about true God elemental powers. it's hard to write a down to earth narrative with that sort of structure, you know.
Yeah, it's part of the reason why I just worship Neil Gaiman, because
It's
like
exactly up his alley, that
like
storyline.
yeah, like the Sandman is, well, I think I mentioned it before, it's my favorite comic of all time, and it's essentially a very similar concept where you have a guy who is essentially godlike. His name is Dream. He's the Lord of Dreams, and he somehow has this all powerful character who also has siblings that are like Delirium, Death, Destiny. Like they all have their own realms of such immense and vast realms. I guess I don't know how to describe them. Just insane
The Dominions.
levels of power. Yeah, and he managed to write an insanely good narrative with it.
Yeah.
Like, there's like side stories and stuff and whatever, but it's such a great story that I'm just amazed that he managed to do it with something so abstract and so like a character so powerful. So yeah, I think a lot of King Nothing. When I am gonna write this. This is like my fucking Everest at the moment.
Copyright Pretty Sketchy Productions 2017.
When I finally get around to doing it, I think a lot of it is going to be drawn from the Sandman.
Do you know the problem? Now it's out there on the internet. Someone's going to like hear this, of the two people who actually listen, and they're going to build a fan page, and then suddenly next thing we get invited to Comic Cons, and people are going to be like, "When is this coming out? It sounds amazing!" And like Neil Gaiman's like calling you up, going, "So, Michael, and you're like, oh god damn it."
I'm like, oh my god, it's Neil Gaiman.
It's like, bitch, I'll write it when I'm ready. Shut up, But
it's something I'm very excited to tackle, though. I really do it. Like I was thinking, just like a little thing. You've kind of described the concept of it, and what he is, and blah blah blah. But like, even to add to that, like just as an example. You call someone up and be like, "Hey man, what are you up to?" And they're like, "Oh, nothing." Like that's his realm as well.
Yeah, it's like I was describing it a little bit too sort of elementally, but it is. It's like the concept of nothing as well. Not just the. I mean, I guess nothing in itself is a concept. Even if you're talking about it on a cosmic scale, it's still just a concept. But But I mean, any time where people are referring to nothing, it's that as well. Like, and you could come at the story from so many angles based on that. My dogs are losing their shit right now. Someone must be walking around outside. So I'm excited about that one, but let's see if we can get through an issue of Homoko King at some point.
Yeah, fair enough.
I mean, don't be afraid to write it though. You can always. And I mean, it doesn't have to be me who draws it either. That's the other thing. So, if you can find some other comic artist, preferably somebody
secretly, like, please let it be someone else.
Yeah. No. I'd be keen, but I'm just saying, like, hire somebody with a work ethic, and you'll get it done. And that'll be up to issue 5 before I finish this one. So, oh shit, I'm rubbing out all these lines everywhere and I've got to put them back. So let me see what's on the agenda today. Oh, so you read Punk Rock Jesus?
Yes, I did.
We got to get the Sean Murphy dick sucking out of the way early in this podcast. Although having said that, I'll probably come back to it a little bit later, but yeah. So what did you think, man? Like, I've been trying to get you to read that for a while.
Speaking of Sean Murphy dick sucking, since we've done the podcast, you and him have had a little fucking rapport building.
Oh yeah,
via Twitter.
I mean, like, we're not going out on dates or anything. There's
only because you're an ocean apart.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, and the fact that he probably doesn't really know that I exist. No, that's what I like about. I like that about Twitter mostly, but I do like that about people on Twitter who are interested in engaging with their fans, and people who comment on things and all that sort of stuff. Like, he's a busy guy, and based on, I mean, I don't know the guy, but based on what I know about Sean Murphy, he's the exact opposite of me, actually. He's a consummate businessman and workaholic. He's always always working. But it's like you said in the tweet to me. Actually, is that what you're referring to about the? Hang on, let me see if I can. Where's my notifications here?
Was it the one where he was on a plane?
Yeah, Sean Murphy was carrying on about flying, and he literally posted like 8 tweets about why planes are stupid. You know, like he hates flying and all this sort of stuff. And so I sent him this picture. It might be hard to see, but I sent him this picture of me working on my Surface, actually on a mock-up of this panel. You can probably see there. And I said, dude, you need to get a Surface Book. That way you can draw on flights and take your mind off that shit. And he responded with, draw when I'm not getting paid? Outrage! So that gives you a bit of an insight into his character. And I said, I responded back saying, you've changed, man. It used to be about the art, lol. And he said, not true. I'm a businessman cursed with an artist's hands. So there you go. That's like exactly what I was saying in a nutshell. He's just his work ethic is pretty solid, and he's always a lot of the comments he makes. I guess in reference to things happening in the industry where people have probably mouthed off about something or whatever, and he's always quick to point out that artists should be businessmen first. And I think that's a problem with a lot of people. You can be the world's greatest artist and the world's most gifted person with a pencil, but if you can't, if you can't, behave appropriately in a business environment is a big thing. Because I mean, a lot of comic book artists, particularly, are probably very, what's the word? Reclusive, I guess. Because it's a pretty reclusive sort of art form. But also, doing things like meeting deadlines and doing all this stuff, like you have to treat it like you're not some sort of you can sit there on one hand and you can have 500 people commenting a day saying how you're an inspiration to them and you're the best thing that ever happened. But if you can't get your pencils to the inker on time and puts him behind schedule, you're still just a dick. Yeah. And being professional is what is the key. I mean, obviously, if you're getting paid, not in my case, obviously. I really like that about his attitude about that. You know what I mean? I feel like it'd be very unusual for him to get something out late or behind schedule.
I think not only that, but a lot of artists start off doing stuff for free.
Yep.
They volunteer their services. I mean, I'm not paying you to do this. Probably never will.
No, to be honest, I said yes because I wanted to see if I could.
Yeah.
And that's like a little bit different,
I think a lot of artists, they just get so used to doing stuff for free.
Yeah.
That they get either too scared to ask for money, or they just become comfortable with it and they just never really.
Or other people become comfortable with paying them nothing.
Yeah,
which is another thing too. And I mean, I'm exactly like that. The reason I don't work for myself anymore is because I'm terrible at asking for money and I'm terrible at valuing my own time. I always end up just doing favors, and which is good. I mean, some of my best friends in the world are people who would drop everything to help you with your project. Like my friend Marshall, when we were making our music video with my band, it wasn't a question of money. It was like, what day do you need me? What do you need me to bring? And that's a godsend, but at the same time you have to be able to transition from what you do for your friends and favors and things like that, and into a business world where when you're talking to clients and stuff, you don't treat them as friends. And that's hard for me. I'm a very friendly person. I make friends with everybody. So but yeah, like it is what it is.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember what this bottom panel's supposed to be. I think it was the grandfather looking over his shoulder and she's run around the corner. That sounds right.
Am I going to have to open InDesign?
Nah, it's all good. I remember.
Cool.
Okay, so that's page 2. Yeah, I remember now. Yeah, cool. So that's that. So I think we got distracted. Yeah, I was going to say. Yeah. And here you go. That's if anyone's interested. If you're following along at home, we're on page 26. Sorry, I got the book out. Tell me about it. What did you think?
I really dug it. Probably close to one of my favorites of his.
Wow. Okay. Cool. Yeah.
Um, I mean, he did write it as well, but
Look at that shit. God
uh,
damn. Yeah.
I don't know. I thought, like I mentioned this to you, like when I read it, that it
Mm.
was just like it was a very good commentary on how did I put it? I can't remember now. Blind belief, I think I said,
Uh
or
huh.
just very just narrow-mindedness and just how just blindly following someone or something or a concept can just ruin you,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
suppose. Not only ruin you, but like on a mass scale, it can affect a country
Mm-hmm.
um, negatively.
Yeah. Yeah. Of course.
But yeah,
Just for anyone who may not have read it, the core concept is Punk Rock Jesus. An organization clones a baby from DNA that they source from the Shroud of Turin, and so they're basically essentially. I mean, the story gets a little bit more complex than this, but the core concept is they're raising a Christ child, but they're doing it in a Big Brother style way where they're in a compound with cameras rolling 24/7. His mother, who I guess gestated the embryo, is there to raise him. She's essentially a virgin. They did the whole thing. Like, it's exactly as you'd expect TV producers to produce somebody's life. It's a little bit like Ed TV or The Truman Show.
Truman Show.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very much so. Probably more like The Truman Show because that got really a lot more dark
Mm.
than Ed TV. But um, you know, but I think and so there's also like a sub story, I guess, which to me was actually, I feel like the what's his name slipped my mind, the bodyguard guy.
Yeah.
Essentially, the main character. Um, sorry,
I
it's
think that starts with an M. It's like Matthew or something, isn't it?
I should say that this is like it's been literally about a year since I read this. I just got it back from Michael. Oh, here's the page that was very recently ripped off by a French artist, and I tell you, Sean Murphy was none too happy about that as well. But seriously, dude, even down to these little handles in the door and everything, he switched a few of the panels around.
Mm.
But it was all over Twitter. He was not happy about it. But this dude, I guess he did it as a quote unquote homage, which I guess is kind of flattering, but at the same time, it was specifically ripping off this page.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can get the dude's name because it's really, really bothering me now. Thomas. Yeah,
Thomas.
Thomas. Of course, it's Thomas. That's a good name. So Thomas's story is that he grew up in Ireland. His family around him were IRA members and stuff like that, and he's just basically grew up to be just a badass who is a bit of a gun for hire, and they bring him in to be basically the security manager for the compound where Chris, the Christ child. God, that sounds, I don't know, pious to talk like that. I don't know. The Christ child shall be born. And he's there, but like because of his history, which is rough, man. He sort of becomes a bit of a savior for the mother and son who are in there. And it's cool how he ties those two stories together. Like he grew up in Ireland, which is like, the UK at that sort of point was just a hotbed for punk. And although he's not completely responsible for Chris's interest in like punk music and rebellion, he's definitely someone who grew up in that era and knows all about it, But yeah, I don't want to give too much away because people should read it. But yeah, so I think it was a worthwhile investment.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It was a little on the nose at some points. 'Cause,
Yeah.
like, I can't remember who it was. I think it was the production manager or the showrunner
Yeah. Oh god,
yelling
he
at
was
the
douchebag.
fat lady, the fat Catholic lady,
Mm-hmm.
and just a lot of the dialogue was very. This isn't the character talking. This is Sean Murphy talking.
Yeah. Yeah, but an artist holds their brush,
Yeah.
The art moves through them. It's I guess it's looking at it through a lens,
Yeah, I don't know. It felt too. I don't know, like not. I don't know how to put it. It just felt like Sean Murphy put his thoughts and just chucked it into a speech bubble without making them sound like they came from the character.
That's fair. That's fair. But I mean, again, so you would notice that, like we've talked about this before, or maybe not on this podcast, about how as a writer you pick things up like that because you're used to writing with your voice, and you know that you have to put your voice through the prism of a character.
Yeah.
And is that what you're saying? Like,
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, he was speaking. It was Sean talking, not Thomas. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
yeah.
Chris in this case, or whatever.
Or, whoever the fuck it was.
Yeah, but yeah, cool. But yeah, I thought it was pretty cool, and it's a great example of a passion project because it was written and drawn by Sean in amongst a whole bunch of other work he was doing with other people like Scott Snyder and stuff like that. So, it's and as far as like somebody who's a great artist being able to write something like this is a big deal as well. You don't often see that. So getting further to that, the other thing that I actually read recently, unfortunately over many days because I don't have any spare time, was Volume 3 of American Vampire, which again I got because it's Sean Murphy does a run in the middle of this, or actually towards the end of this. And I just I'm interested in seeing his work through different eras, obviously with different colorists or whatever. Actually, I think he might be Matt Hollingsworth. Anyway, so I don't know. Just to see how his work's evolved, because and to me it's more of a curiosity because I've seen some real early stuff and I've seen some real modern stuff with Tokyo Ghost and stuff going back to the Wake and earlier. And recently I bought what's the Constantine one?
Hellblazer.
An issue of Hellblazer I found as a back issue that he drew a long time ago as well. And I'm more interested, rather than just sucking some Sean Murphy dick here. I'm interested in seeing how, because Tokyo Ghost to me is a pretty massive influence. Like when I look at the artwork in that, it really twigs things in my brain that are interesting. As like from an artist's perspective, but I need to see where he came from and like how his art's evolved. And oftentimes you can look back through and you can see a lot of things that have changed. In fact, one of the comments that we had together just recently was because I pointed out that I just bought this, and he said something along the lines of, there was a lot of pointy noses in there I wish I could have gone back and fixed. And look how that reminded me right here, this very pointy nose. But see, I look at it, I don't see that. I see that's Sean Murphy's fingerprint, and while he may have evolved that out in his artwork, to a certain degree, to me, it's a hallmark of who he is. Like I see that, and I mean, I don't think I could ever pick up something that he did that I wouldn't immediately recognize as his work. Throughout any of his thing, like his style has, I guess, become more refined, but it hasn't changed, And I think that's fantastic. I think that's the sign of a true artist. Whereas, see, I'm still trying to find my voice. Maybe that's why I'm a little bit obsessed with it, because I really need to find my visual voice. Because I've never drawn in a particular style. Yeah. I've always just drawn the picture, not drawn the picture the way Corey would draw it, and that makes for very scattered work that doesn't really sort of have any kind of flow to it. And I think that's why I've been struggling getting off the first few pages, is because every time I do another page, it just doesn't look, it looks like a non sequitur, Yeah, so...
Yeah, I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that like a lot of your drawings in the past they have a reference, like you have a visual reference. You've drawn things that have already been drawn before.
Yeah.
Or, there's a photo of a person that, like something that already exists. Mm-hmm. What you're drawing now is something that I've written. I've given like visual sort of clues and what they look like, but I haven't given you an actual picture.
Yep.
For you to reference off. So a lot of it is still coming from your brain.
Yeah.
And like, I've told you that Nissa has short black hair, pink eyes, and she's wearing like a certain set of clothes.
She has pink eye?
Changing.
She needs to talk to somebody about that. Sorry.
She probably should.
That's a terrible joke.
Yeah, and like that's pretty much it. Like, she's slim and she's in her mid-20s. Like, go from there. And maybe that's what it is. Like, you're just sort of still trying to figure out what she looks like to you.
Mm-hmm.
I guess. I don't know.
Well, see, I think the other thing that might have been an issue too is because to me, I've always been interested in drawing as close to realism as possible. Like that's been my driving force, and I've never spent the time and really done anything that's super hyper realistic.
Yeah.
But I feel like that if I spent the time on it, I probably could. I just can't be bothered, you know. But whenever I'm drawing a face or whatever, I'm trying to proportionally make it perfect and all that sort of stuff. Whereas a lot of people come from a different angle of more of a cartoony or comic style. They develop a way to draw faces, not the way faces are drawn, you know.
Yeah.
And so to me, that's the challenge, is because with comic art, you don't have that kind of level of detail. You know, when you're inking something, a lot of the detail disappears. Like a lot of the little inflections of the pen that sort of give it realism get just blended away underneath the inks. And it's a real challenge to sort of keep that detail there. And so what you end up with is a hard outlined cartoon. You know, like if you look at this, there's no denying that you look at it and I'm looking at the cover of Reborn issue 3. I mean, this Greg Capullo style is such that it's very comic booky, you know. Compared to say something like 7 to Eternity with Jerome Peña's work, it's much finer detailed line art. Sort of, I mean, you still look at it and immediately think comic book because all of the rendering is done with ink. You know, there's no hiding it. As much as this is computer colored with a lot of detail and stuff like that, and a lot of gradients and a lot of shading and texture added. Fundamentally, all the shading is done with a pen. You know. And so always being the kind of person who shied away from that sort of rendering, it's been a real challenge for me to sort of do this. And I think that's what it is, because I have never developed that inking style. My comic style, I guess, has suffered as a result of that, you know. But it is what it is. You know? Let me think. How am I going to do this now? I'm trying to think about vanishing points again. If that's the horizon... Sorry.
Speaking of like realism and stuff, I was having a chat with a friend the other day, and we were talking about video games and whatnot. And he like when Skyrim came out, he was like heavily modding it and putting guns in it and whatnot and blah blah blah. Anyway, and we ended up talking about
guns. Outstanding.
Yeah, it's Fallout.
yeah. Good point. Yeah, it's exactly what it is.
We ended up talking about like Oblivion and Morrowind, and I was reflecting on Oblivion. I was like, you know, that's a good game, and like it still is. Like it holds up mechanic wise and gameplay wise, but visually it just doesn't. Like it just looks very just bleh. Looks like someone puked up a palette and put it on some models, sort of thing. And yeah, I was talking to him about that, and we were both, you know, like, yeah, it really didn't age well visually. And I kind of realized, you know, with games, like more than anything else, realism is kind of pointless, because with a game, you could, for the technology you have at the time, you try to make something look as real as possible.
And we're back.
Yeah.
Yet again, the Gremlins. The Gremlins. If it wasn't 40 goddamn degrees, the computer might be able to tolerate it, but unfortunately it just keeps powering off. Sorry, what were you saying?
Well, just so we know, it happens to the best of us.
I don't know that it does.
You've seen it happen to the best of us.
Yeah.
And us over at Defacast, we managed to hide it pretty well. So, the whole realism thing with video games, anyway.
Oh yeah, of course,
yeah. Like, what was I up to? Yeah, like you could make a game now look realistic, graphics wise, but in 10 years it's still going to look like shit, because technology will advance and you find ways to make stuff look even more realistic. And I mean, eventually you'll get to the point where you can see the light through someone's nose hairs shine through correctly, whatever, blah blah blah.
Dude, every AAA game is the best graphics that there will ever be.
Yeah, pretty much. But you know, on the opposite end of the spectrum, you look at something like Ori and the Blind Forest, which is a beautiful game, and you know, not realistic in to any stretch of the imagination.
Mm.
10 years from now, that game is still going to look fucking beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, it's the Borderlands principle. If Borderlands came out with, some sort of latest cutting edge graphics, it wouldn't be anywhere near as cool as it is.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I don't know. I guess what I'm getting is like I don't know why a lot of companies are still trying so hard to get that realistic look. I mean, find your own style and just sort of go with it. Like if it is realistic, then whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Just be aware that right now is probably it's the best it's going to look, because something will come out a few years down the track and it'll make your game look like shit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I think because like I've become more of an indie gamer over the last few years, that I've seen a lot of really beautiful games that are still ugly at the same time. Like their art style is very. I mean, a lot of games are made pixel art and all that bullshit, but there are some games that are they just look ugly, but they look ugly on purpose, which in turn makes them quite beautiful.
Yeah.
So yeah, I have no idea where I was going with that. I was just rambling.
No, I get it. I get it. Now I've got to find my position here.
I feel like I need to say shit like that because I never hear anyone else talk about it.
Yeah, fair enough. Like as far as everybody's always after the latest and greatest graphics.
Oh, not just that, but like just in general conversation or even on the internet, and
yeah,
like I just never hear anyone talk about it. Speaking of which,
here's Star Wars.
What?
Rogue One.
Oh no.
I thought you were just developing your own segue there. Sorry, you go on.
I wasn't even thinking about that. Like, and I mean, you get this a lot more than I do, but I got asked a question that I absolutely hate at work the other day. Like, it's the worst question you can ask me anyway. This woman comes up to me. I was in your fucking section, and she's like, "What are some good games for girls?"
Oh, yep, I get that a lot.
Man,
and you know what they mean. It's just that they're not articulating it very well. You know, what they're actually asking is, what's a good stereotypical game for girls?
Yeah,
a good game for stereotypical girls. Like, I've got a daughter who likes flowers and ponies. Yeah. What do you recommend? You know, but what we hear is, I don't know anything about my daughter and I'm an asshole.
yeah. I almost went, just give her Dark Souls.
Yeah,
it's a good game. She'll like it.
It's a good game.
Probably wouldn't help that she's a little kid, so I probably should have gone with something easier. But
or something that's not going to leave her devastated at nighttime every time the light goes off.
Yeah, well, I could have just given it to her. It's like, look, give her this. She'll never want a game again in her life. You're going to save a lot of money. Like, but yeah, like I absolutely abhor that question. Anytime someone asks me that, I'm just like, talk to your daughter and see what the fuck she likes, then you'll know.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to be like, yeah, here's a fucking Barbie game, because you'll buy it and she probably won't like it.
This game demeans us both.
Yeah, and all of a sudden it's my fault.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know. And games, there's no such thing as a game for girls.
No, 100%.
There's the right game for the right person.
Well, I mean, this is getting back to, I'm not sure if it was Morris. Morris is a
I think it was Morris, and I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, there was a thing a while back where somebody made a display. I think what happened was someone else came up with it, or I believe, and Morris ran with it. But the guys from Kotaku happened to go to his store, like it's a city store, and they saw it and thought it was the best thing ever and ran with it. And it was essentially, it said a section, like he set up a section where games for girls. And it was, games like Dark Souls and, like all of those, like, Until Dawn.
Like GTA, Call
of Duty. Basically anything that would be a stereotypical boy game.
Yeah.
And it made an interesting point. And, and that actually went viral. Actually a few things from... It's funny, you know what? Being a Redditor or someone on Reddit, it's remarkable how much of JB's shit shows up just in general Reddit sort of thing. And the funny thing is people recognize it now because they recognize the store layout and things like that, because we're a very unique looking store. I just gave away where we worked. Jesus.
Yeah, you did.
We got to be real careful now. And it shows up all the time, and you flick through the comments, and it's like JB at it again, you know,
Yeah.
and it, like comments from around the world. It's like, you know, they're just well known. This podcast is not affiliated with, in any way with JB Hi-Fi. And our opinions that we express here are our own. Yeah, but it's just funny. Like, it always gives me a little bit of a charge when I see that, you know.
Oh yeah, yeah. I actually saw one during our little break. Someone wrote a review for Batman Begins and one for Man of Steel, and it was along the lines of a young boy loses his father and learns about, you know, how to be a good person through the lessons that his father left him, and it was the same review for both movies.
Figures. Yeah, there's a lot of smart asses who work at JB. I think you have to do a smart ass assessment test before they employ you.
Yeah.
The best one, and I mean this was terrible. But where's the pedo bear one?
Yeah, I remember that.
And it went viral, and all we got was a memo that said, "If this is your store, take it down immediately. This has gone viral." You know,
Yeah.
and I mean,
For
it's
people
not.
that don't know, it was a picture of Pedo Bear. I think it was a CD bin or
Yep.
CD rack or something. And
Yeah,
it
but the
said
price point was under
$15.
$15, and it's like CDs under $15, and that's pedo bear running. CDs under 15.
That was amazing.
All right, I'm doing Grandpa here. It looks a little bit different to last time. I'm gonna have to look at my reference.
I remember someone asking me if Evan did that, and I was like, I don't even think Evan knows what Pedo Bear is.
Yeah, he would. He wouldn't be that meta.
Yeah.
Or that up to date with memes.
Yeah.
He makes his own memes. But
Yeah,
having
pretty-
said that, it follows his sense of humor. That's for sure. Like,
Oh yeah, he's got a great sense of humor too.
oh man, his ability to just generate puns is just ridiculous. It's astounding.
That Finding Corey is one of the best things I've ever seen in my life. It's brilliant.
Oh yeah, that was when I was going to leave, and then I'd end up not. So
Yeah. Still.
What else? Oh, so one of the major things that's happened since we last spoke, Carrie Fisher.
Yep.
I think there's nothing that we could say that hasn't already been said by people who know more about it,
Yeah.
and about her and things like that. But I mean, it's a big loss, you know, not one that was entirely unexpected. In that, you know, like, it's not like she was still 19. But and one thing I said to my nephew, I actually messaged me that day, and he goes, "Oh, how you holding up, man?" And I was thinking, about what? Like, I'm like, did I miss something? And then I realized, because, you know, he knows I'm a huge Star Wars fan. He's a huge Star Wars fan from way back.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, Carrie Fisher, okay, you know. And I said, yeah, you know, it's cool. I said, but dude, to be honest with you, man, she lived 3 lifetimes in that 60 years, you know. It's hard to look at it and say that's tragic. And I mean, anyone dying is tragic, but boy, did she do a lot with her 60. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you know, we should all want for that, you know. But the interesting thing for me, as you know, is that I can't believe I was this late to the party, but I finally went and saw Rogue One the day that she had died. And I went in there knowing nothing about it, other than, you know, obviously what everyone knows, that it's, you know, we all knew what the story was going to be going in.
Yeah.
But just that last shot, and I don't want to give any spoilers away, but we all know who've seen it. The last shot, I nearly bawled my eyes out. and you know, I'm not that dude, you know, you know what I mean? I'm pretty practical and pretty rational about things, and I was just like, yeah, it was pretty interesting, and to be honest, a job well done too by ILM. I think they did that better than they probably could have, which is interesting. You know, I thought that was cool. But yeah, I mean, you've gone on record on the internet, so everybody probably knows by now your opinions on Rogue One. And look, you know what? I want to paraphrase it, or I guess, you know, put it out there that you liked the movie.
Yes.
You know what I mean? You didn't have a problem with well, you had some problems with the movie,
Yes,
but on the
I had
whole,
some problems with the
you
movie.
liked the movie.
Yeah.
But it's what you were saying before about having contrary opinions about things. It's kind of hard because you can love something and still see its flaws.
Yeah.
And so in your other podcast, Defacast, I mean, it's your job to pull movies apart and go, okay, this is what I thought about it for reals, you know?
Yeah.
And you can sit there all you want and say it was the best movie ever and stuff like that. But if you did find exceptions, then it's your job to talk about it. Same as a critic. You know, a critic has a job where people value their opinions, or people who follow them value their opinions and know, you know, if they like something that or if they saw something that they didn't like, it's probably similar to my tastes. I probably wouldn't like it either.
Yeah.
So as soon as you go out to critique something, you have to speak the truth. Otherwise, what's the point of being a critic, you know?
Yeah.
And I mean, you guys don't go out there to criticize.
And even then, you're just misleading your audience.
Exactly. Yeah. And so, I mean, anybody who wants to know Michael's opinion should go check out Defacast, because it's real interesting. You got everyone there's a Star Wars fan, and you know you got Carl, who would just blindly fall in love with anything that's got a lightsaber in it. God love him. And then then there's Dave is a little bit more pragmatic with his how he likes things and things like that.
Yeah,
and then
I describe Dave as cautiously optimistic.
Yeah, and then there's you who enjoyed it, but you had some opinions on a few things, which is fair. And like I said too, I watched it. You know what I noticed the second time through? I didn't realize, because when you go to it depends who you go to a movie with as well, especially on a second viewing. Like the first time I was just enamored by the whole thing. I was just like, oh my God, I expected good, but this is great. And so I was blown away. Second time through, I was sitting next to Nat and I was watching it through her prism. You know, like I was looking at it and going, what is Nat seeing when she's looking at this? And I was trying to evaluate in my head whether or not, is she going to get this? You know, because I know her really, really well, obviously. So I'm just sort of preempting what she's going to have questions about and, what she's going to think,
You're preparing your answers.
Yeah, but just, more so just, it's like anything. Like when you write a song and you're playing it to somebody, all of a sudden you hear all of the things that you think that they'll hear. And you go, oh, fuck, I hate it. I don't want to play it for anyone anymore. It's the same thing. So I'm watching it with her, and the one thing I noticed is the first act and a half is really slow.
Yeah, it really is.
And I didn't notice it the first time until I went back and sort of sat there next to her. I'm thinking, she's going to be bored. This is confusing. They jump around to about 17 different goddamn planets. And it's hard to follow because they're all different. They all have weird names you would never remember. And suddenly, the main character was named Jin. No, what's her name?
Yeah, Jin.
Yeah, Jin Erso. That's right. She's a little girl. Then suddenly she's a grown up. She's in jail and stuff. And you're like, what happened? We don't know about why she's in jail. I mean, it's implied, obviously, but if you're struggling to follow all the other stuff, then maybe that's something else you got to be concerned about. It does jump around a fair bit, and it's not until it sort of starts becoming that great action movie that I think it finds its pacing. But again, we're saying things, but we both loved the movie. Like, it was fun to watch. It was fantastic.
I did get like a little bit of validation the other day. And we all love a little bit of validation. Rob.
Oh, what was Rob's opinion? I haven't spoken to him about it.
Rob was like, yeah, I went and saw Rogue One. I was like, oh yeah, what'd you think? He's like, yeah, it was pretty good.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I think it was like roughly on the same level as me.
Yeah.
Like he liked it, but it wasn't fucking the second coming of Luke Skywalker.
Well, that's just it. Like what you took exception to wasn't so much whether it was good or bad. It was the fact that everybody was talking about it like it was the best movie since Empire.
Yeah.
And in your estimation, that wasn't the case.
No. To be fair, I hold Empire to a very high standard. Like in the Star Wars film log. To me, Empire is number one.
Yeah, fair enough.
That's the best Star Wars movie, and nothing has come close to it.
Yeah.
At all. So.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's definitely the most engaging tone of all of them. Like, it just has a feel to it that the others didn't quite capture.
Yeah.
And it was just, great directing, like George Lucas sort of bailed on it and gave it to someone else, and they did a great job. God damn.
What was his name? Ivan Kershner?
Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah.
Oh man, how do I know these names?
Yeah, good question.
It was kind of funny. I was thinking, I think I had it in my head as I was doing the Defcast, but I never mentioned it. and not to shit on the movie more, but I'm kind of gonna. Um, like like in the Deathcast, I mentioned like a lot of the fact that you don't really get to connect with the characters all that much. They're sort of like, here they are, bang, they're off, and then bang, they're dead. Spoilers.
Oh,
But you all knew it was going to happen.
yeah, yeah. How come these guys aren't in any of the other movies?
Yeah. Where's Jin in episode 4?
Yeah.
It was. I remember a game that I played, Star Wars game, Republic Commando.
Hmm.
It's not a very long game. It's probably like 8 hours at the most.
Hmm.
I felt more of a connection to those characters than I did with the ones in Rogue One.
Fair enough.
And like, I don't know. A lot of people laud Republic Commando as this fucking amazing game, and like, it's a really good game. Don't get me wrong. It's probably one of the best Star Wars games you'll ever play.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like I thought that was a really good game. Not as good as everyone says it was, but I don't know. I just felt kind of weird that like I felt more of a connection to the characters in that game than I did to Rogue One. Because typically, to me, and I probably shouldn't do this, but I hold movies to a higher standard than I do video games.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
Especially in terms of story and whatnot. Because, I mean, games, you got a limitation. You need to balance that gameplay story.
Yeah, and a mechanic and everything like that it needs to function as a game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Republic Commando did it really well, though, I think. But yeah, I don't know. Well, just a little tidbit that I never really mentioned in Deathcast. Mainly because they probably wouldn't really get it, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, fair enough.
But that'd probably castrate me. But yeah.
Okay, anyway, man, that just about wraps it up.
Already?
Yeah, already.
Oh my god.
No, we've done about an hour, I think, with the breakdown. So all right.
It's going to be another 2 weeks before we do it.
Okay, no worries. Bye.
Hi, Nat.
Hi, Nat. Nat just invaded the podcast. She's taking the if anyone's playing at home, she's taking the Pomeranians for a walk. Okay, so everyone just calm down. The dogs are getting walked.
Featuring Nat in the title now.
Featuring Nat. Oh, god damn it. That means I'm going to be paying royalties through the nose. Likeness rights, the whole bit. Yeah.
Oh, God.
Okay.
Before we do go, did you get any headway with those shirts?
No. I got to get on that. I need to figure out how I'm going to do it financially.
Yeah, clock's ticking on that one.
Yeah, it is too. We're running out of time. We got RTX coming up. We need our cool podcast shirts. And you know what? Once they're on Cafe Press, we can make them available to the public as well. So, if anyone out there wants to support the podcast and buy a shirt.
Schmorgan or Heckengard.
Yeah, you can be Schmorgan or Heckengard, either one, which is a gag that nobody listening probably gets at all.
No, not at all.
We should make another one that just has Samoko King on the back. That'd be pretty badass.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool.
So I'll get that sorted. I might have a look at that now, actually, and just see. But yeah. All right, cool. I just got to cross all the T's and dot all the lowercase J's.
Yeah.
All right. Well, yeah. Let's tie it up there. We don't want to keep people too long. Shout out to Lincoln who's been listening to these. He told me, so we'll see.
I'm pretty sure Tom still is too.
Yeah, we'll see if he's making it to the end of these things.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. And by the way, Lincoln, your NES Classic extension cables have come in, so I'll grab one for you when I see you.
Also, your check's in the mail.
Your check's in the mail, yeah. All right, thanks for watching. This podcast is brought to you by CoreyWireArt.com in lieu of a proper sponsor. If you're watching the stream but want to listen to us on your commute, search iTunes for Pretty Sketchy Podcast, or if you're an audio listener and you want to see what I'm actually drawing here, squeege, yeah. Search for us on YouTube as well, Pretty Sketchy Podcast. You can also check out Corey Wire Art with some stuff there as well. Thanks again for joining us, Michael, and
No worries.
we'll see you guys on the next one.
Woo.